Yeah.
Can you demonstrate? Can you show me the evidence?
I can show you in the earliest manuscript.
No, no. Can you show me the? No, no, no.
So you don't like manuscripts?
No. Can you show me the evidence of that happening today, where you have different Qur'ans being recited all over the world?
Does not conform to many of your earliest manuscripts.
Can you answer the question? Can you show me evidence?
If you talked about the biblical text, and
I'm not talking about the biblical text.
Yeah, but I'm saying you would never accept it.
No, of course.
You would never
well,
accept it.
I would accept it if they could demonstrate to me.
What, an oral tradition?
If they could demonstrate, yes, absolutely. If they could demonstrate to me that we have an oral tradition.
And you wouldn't say things like, oh no, Chinese whispers.
Let me finish. If they could demonstrate to me that we have an oral tradition, this is the James. This is the actual Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. This is their oral tradition, okay? And we have lineages coming out from these scholars, right? Who taught hundreds, thousands, and now millions of people. And guess what? Every recitation of the Bible is letter for letter, word for word correct. You know what I would have to say humbly? That, you know what? Maybe I don't accept that this is from God, but I would have to concede that the only rational possibility is that there has to be preservation. That this could not have happened the way you're saying, Chinese whispers.
We know there wasn't preservation in your written materials, your earliest written materials.
So we talk about the written material. Yeah. Okay. So who is saying, according to our written material, the Quran is not preserved?
Daniel Brubaker.
Daniel Brubaker.
He's a contemporary scholar to Yasser Qadhi.
Daniel Brubaker is what? Sorry.
He's a contemporary Aramaic Quran expert who studies the earliest manuscripts, and he has said that there are differences between the earliest manuscripts and the standardized 1924.
Which work of Daniel Brubaker are you referring to?
Well, particularly his book. He wrote a book that was like a popular.
No, we debunked that book in various ways.
This is the brother who debunked it, by the way.
So you're talking about
he was one of the brothers who debunked
examples or so.
Yeah.
And what does these 20 examples demonstrate?
Demonstrate differences between the standardized Hafs Quran and the earliest manuscripts you have. They also demonstrate the existence of polypsis, which is manuscripts that were written over in a parchment or vellum with actual new words.
Let's talk about Daniel Brubaker.
So you added new words.
So Daniel Brubaker wrote a book in which he's saying there are corrections in the manuscript traditions.
Yeah.
Did he, let me ask you this question now, because I'm sure you have read his book, you've understood his book, you've understood his methodology, and then you've verified that it's a robust methodology, so conclusions are correct.
Mainstream scholar.
Did you hear what I just said?
Yes.
So you've read his book, understood his methodology, so the conclusions you are agreeing that is correct. So let me ask you, a particular manuscript, he's saying there seems to be a correction happening here about a particular word, right?
Yeah.
So did he then tell you or tell us that from the other contemporaneous manuscripts from that time period, either earlier, at the same time, or just a little bit later, from around the globe, other manuscripts? So we are talking about witnesses from other manuscripts, not only one isolated manuscript. Has he done that in his book, and what did he say when he did that?
You mean, has he compared multiple manuscripts? The answer is yes, he has compared multiple manuscripts.
So
he mentions in his book particular ones that are thought of as being, by Muslims anyway, as Uthman copies. Most scholars say they're not Uthman copies.
So let me give you the first example of his 20 examples, right? So how many other manuscripts has also the same corrections that he compared?
Well, the corrections are often unique to particular manuscripts, right?
Let me ask you again. When we want to demonstrate something has been corrupted, because he says corruption in the manuscripts, right? So we should find. Find changes.
Or an insertion, or a removal.
Do you know his title of his PhD thesis?
No.
Intentional changes, something along these lines, right? So basically, he's saying this kind of corruption.
Well, we know that there was, because we know, for example.
No. Let's not talk about that. When you say we know,
explain what I'm talking about.
When you say we know, have you read his thesis?
Let me just explain what I'm talking about.
Okay, have you read his thesis?
No, I've read his book. Let me explain what I'm talking about. He has noted in many earliest manuscripts, which are thought of as being copies of Uthman in the Islamic tradition, have the word he replaced over with the word Allah in many places. Okay. So a scribe at some point has decided that was incorrect.
As I said, I have not only read his book, we have responded to his book, and it's a book that is available in academia free of charge, of course, over 300 pages.
Okay, but he hasn't actually made any opinion.
Can I finish my point? Can I make a point?
Sure.
Right. Because you're bringing him as a scholar who has an opinion on this issue about preservation.
Yeah, he is an expert in the field.
Right. According to who?
According to academia, according to Yasser Qadi, according to
no.
all of the other Quranic experts, he is an expert in that field.
He's an expert in what?
In Quranic studies, in the original Aramaic language, for other manuscripts.
Original Aramaic language. Anyway, okay, besides the point.
The one
besides
that the,
the point.
Quran
Yeah, of course. Expert in Aramaic language. I'm sure you will
Are you
reflect
saying
on
he
it.
isn't?
No, I'm sure you'll reflect on it much later. Let's come back to this point. So the example he brings, for example, he says this particular manuscript, say this is manuscript in top copy, right? Top manuscripts, it has a particular corrections there. So according to what you've read, because you've read this book, he has compared with the other manuscript from the same time period. We are talking about producing what we call a stemma. So he has looked at manuscript from same region or different regions from the same time, maybe about 8th century, 7th century, whichever manuscript top copy is from, right? I'm not going to help you with the dates now. So either he's brought manuscript from before or after or contemporary time. And then he said, look, we have the same correction happening in all the other manuscripts, right?
No, I don't think it happens in all of them, you saying me.
No, I'm just giving you example number 1. Okay. And then I'm continuing with example number 2, 3, 4, up to 20. So has he done that with every examples and he demonstrated that right? Yes, yeah?
He is doing it with manuscripts as he is studying them. He's taking note of them. For example, in his written work, 20 examples, he only picked 20.
You misunderstood my question.
Okay, sorry.
In his PhD thesis, he had about 800 or so examples.
Okay, sure.
You haven't read it? No,
I haven't read it. I haven't said that.
The book says 20 examples,
yes,
but it has more than 20 anyway, even though it says 20.
I know,
So within these 20 examples, obviously as a good scholar, he would say, look, this is a manuscript, and we have compared with other manuscripts around the same time period, and we have found their corrections on those as well, because that's when people are corrupting it, isn't it?
Right, yeah.
Wrong. You haven't read his book, because he doesn't compare with other manuscripts.
No, I'm just talking with what you would do. You described the methodology, I agree with that.
But he hasn't done that.
Yes, that's not the intention of his book.
Wait. What is he trying to show you?
He's trying to show you that there are differences between certain manuscripts and the standardized Hafs.
Okay, can I just say one thing here? The brother raised the point about methodology.
Yep.
You agreed that would be the better methodology. Hold on a second. No, please, one second.
Okay.
You agreed that would be the correct methodology.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be the fair, just methodology. Yeah. But he doesn't do that.
Has he done that in his PhD thesis?
He doesn't do that.
He's doing this.
No. But the point is,
well, how long does it take to go?
No. The point is that he hasn't done that.
Yes. No.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
The point is that he's not done that.
Yes.
And now hold on. I haven't finished yet.
My friend, I already agree with what you're saying.
Right.
I want to talk about what he is saying.
Therefore, when somebody doesn't do something that they are supposed to do to ensure that there is trust within a methodology, what should one conceivably do?
My friend, you need to understand.
One should put it aside,
but not only this,
and not trust it.
Just to bring you in the reality scene here, because you are somehow divorced from reality. In what happens?
Why we say that?
Let me explain. So, in our response to his book, we have shown 7, 8, 9, 10 other manuscripts from around the same time frame, roughly. Right?
Sure.
Sometimes early, sometimes contemporaries, sometimes a bit later, because we are talking about establishing a stemma. And we have shown, let's say 8 other manuscripts has exactly the same word like we have on our Quran today.
Right.
Let me finish my point.
I agree.
Let me finish my point though.
I'm agreeing with you.
With every example, if we can demonstrate that we have more than one manuscript from any manuscript that he brings, with the so-called corrections, we have many other manuscripts.
That's like the Christian position.
Let me finish my point.
Not at all.
Just to show you how insignificant his work is. The word is insignificant. So if we find, for every example he brings, I bring you other 7 more examples of manuscripts, which is exactly the same reading as our manuscripts or other Quranic text today. It tells you and I and my brother here that the Quranic text that we read today is in line with our manuscript tradition, exactly preserved. So that means, how do we then explain those corrections? We go by looking at this particular example. Has this correction been made by described by a mistake, a lapse of memory in writing. So you can see, for example, he writes at the end of a line and it comes to an alif. And then when he comes again to the next line, he repeats that alif again. Now, that is something he realized he didn't do. So this is a mistake that you'll find common in all manuscript traditions, including biblical manuscripts.
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Right. So these corrections do not point to Qur'an's not being preserved. When we have other manuscripts with the same text of the Quran today, that points to Quranic preservation of our text. Do you agree?
No. Because your view of preservation, your version of preservation is not the same as the Christian version.
We're not talking about Christian preservation.
I know,
I'm talking about my textual preservation.
What you described is basically a really good Christian argument.
Not at all.
But it does not apply to the Quran whatsoever.
Not at all.
They say that the Quran has been perfectly preserved. Well, we know that's not true. We can go to the earliest manuscripts and see variants in it.
Like what?
The ones that Daniel Brubaker has.
Which one? Give an example.
Okay, so in one of the manuscripts, I can't remember which one. I can find out if we need to. But there was repeated attempts to change the word he in many verses to the word Allah. It was written over in many of these manuscripts.
You know what? You should rather, instead of relying on this particular one individual, why don't
But that's a contemporary of scholarship. He is in the same bracket as Yasser Qadi.
Who said that?
They work together.
They
write
don't work together.
They write together.
They don't write
They
together.
are contemporaries. They
Don't work together. They don't write
work.
together. Yasser Qadi is not a Quranic scholar. Neither is Daniel Brubaker. Daniel Brubaker did his PhD thesis
He literally, that's his job.
Listen.
Okay.
Daniel Brubaker done a PhD.
Yes.
And that makes him a
He works
scholar?
for a university.
That makes him a scholar.
Okay, hold
Yeah.
on. Okay, hold on a second.
What? His name's Doctor.
Okay.
Oh, he's a
my
doctor.
God.
So you're saying
So-
doctors aren't scholars?
So that makes him an expert.
So,
Yes.
I gave him the comment by
Do you
Wait,
know
what?
about Dr. Tayyar Altikulach?
No.
or Angela Newith, as I mentioned.
Do you know about Deroche?
No.
Angela Newith?
If you
Germany?
don't know about Deroche
Okay.
and you think he's a scholar of the Quran, then you must be someone who is in evangelical Christianity. Is that right?
All I know is that Daniel
That's what they do.
Daniel Brubaker is
Can he
someone
speak Arabic?
Can he?
Can Daniel Brubaker
yes,
speak Arabic?
to some degree. I've heard him say Arabic things, yeah.
If you
He
look
reads
at
it anyway,
if you look
so-
at my Twitter exchange with him, now you realize I've exchanged with him, your so-called scholar. He makes so many basic mistakes in simple Arabic grammar that a child won't do, which I highlighted to him in his PhD thesis
Okay. People make mistakes.
and in his book.
Yeah, people make mistakes. I
No.
don't, that's not a
Do you under-
refutation. of
do you
someone's
understand what I
argument.
just said?
That's saying he made a
He
mistake somewhere.
doesn't even know basic Arabic language, and yet
Yes, he does because he
no, he
translates.
doesn't. Do you know what I just said?
So you're
I
telling
said,
me
I
he can work with Yasser Qadi.
No, he doesn't work with Yasser Qadi.
They write. He's done videos where he literally takes an email from Yasser Qadi.
no.
Yasser
What?
Qadi peer-reviewed his work.
Which work did he do in collaboration with Yasser Qadi?
Not in collaboration. I'm saying they both work at universities. Yes.
That makes
Is
them
it-
working
is it,
together.
I think what you're
they're peers. They peer review each other.
I think what you're quoting is completely wrong. I'll tell you why.
Okay, which part?
Yasser Qadi made a video against Brubaker.
Yes,
Yes.
because
Hold
they
on
are
a second.
contemporaries.
Hold on a second. Brubaker responded
Yes.
by some of the comments that Yasser Qadi had made against him.
Yes, and the email he sent to
Hold
him.
on a second.
Yes.
That's not called working together.
Anthropopedian.
When I say
What's the
work-
word?
That's
Yes.
not called working together.
No, in scholarship,
That's
there's a
not called-
principle that
that's
when you
not-
write something
look,
like a PhD, you
let-
have to have it.
let-
You have to have it
listen to me.
evaluated by
Let-
other
look,
scholars.
Yasser
such
Qadi
as-
was
let me-
not
let me
a
just-
peer reviewer.
So he's
of
not.
Daniel
Yasser Qadi has
Brubaker's
never
work.
read his. Of course, he's read his work. You know he's read his
in
work.
fact, who were the supervisors of Dr. Brubaker's work in his PhD thesis?
I don't know, but there would have
You
been
should
other
find
scholars.
out. You should find out.
There are other scholars
Hang on.
who he quotes.
Look, when you do your PhD, this is something that you need to really understand.
Basic
when
stuff.
you do your research,
This is basic, man.
when you do a research,
Yeah.
you do a research under a particular supervision of other scholars, right? Your
right.
PhD supervisors. Who was his PhD supervisors? How much role and involvement did they have? He did it under Rice University.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I really ask you, go and read his PhD thesis, read about the proficiency and expertise of his supervisors and how much they were involved in his work. Right? That's his PhD thesis. So why is he making simple grammatical mistake? Like, for example, you'd say, Inna Allaha ala kulli shayin qadir. You're not going to say, Inna Allahu. Even a child who's just beginning to speak Arabic, they're not going to say, Inna Allahu. Do you know why? Because after, what comes after the word inna, this particle inna, it has to come from this form we call mansoob. Inna Allaha, and the sign is a fatha, and so on. A scholar, an expert, would not make such a mistake, in which he does, and it's been pointed to.
People make mistakes.
No, people don't make mistakes in simple Arabic grammar.
Well, that's not his native language, right? He had to learn.
So if he doesn't know simple Arabic language, how is he going to be able to read what it says in a very old Arabic script?
Mate, I'm English,
the language
and I
he
make
doesn't
mistakes
know
when I write
himself.
English.
Let me explain something to you.
Do you understand something? The language he doesn't know. So how is he going to read what it says?
He does know it because he translates it.
Let me explain.
Just one moment, brother.
Yeah.
For example, he talked about a particular example of how this particular word is written. I actually made a response, a video response, about the issues of Hamza and how it sits on the kursi. Okay, something very basic. Please watch that on Dawah Wise channel. Yeah, Dawah Wise this channel, and you will see that a scholar of this caliber, who's making simple mistakes like this, of course is going to make a mistake in reading manuscripts.
Sure.
Then his reading, his interpretation, is it going to be faulty or is it going to be robust? If he doesn't know how to read.
Well, no, he doesn't know how to read it. He makes mistakes. I'll go in that.
No. If he doesn't know how to read.
Can I just address that point?
I'm pretty sure he can read Arabic.
Okay, can I just address that point?
He can read Arabic, yeah.
If your child is at school and is being taught by an English teacher,
Yeah.
and you decide to sit in,
Yeah.
and she makes basic errors of grammar and spelling, would you trust that? Hold on a second. Would you trust that teacher to teach your child?
Okay, it depends on why they're doing it. If they're making errors because they're having a bad day, sure, they're having a bad day.
Yes.
But if they literally don't know,
Yes.
then that's a problem.
So that's a problem,
I
right?
do believe he does
Would
know
you trust?
because it's his
Would
job
you
to
trust
know.
that teacher to teach your
And he's
child?
peer reviewed.
Would you trust that teacher?
If they're having a bad day, I won't have a problem with it.
Not having a bad day. If they repeatedly
That's
make
right.
the same
That's right.
mistakes.
Repeatedly.
But as he said, oh, that was a mistake, and is he corrected
No,
himself?
he repeatedly makes the same mistakes.
So I'm asking you the question
Okay,
again.
well, we'll see.
Would you trust that teacher?
Can I just ask?
No. Would you trust that teacher?
I've already given my answer. If they're having a bad day, that's fine. But if they actually don't know English, then yeah.
Then yes, you have a problem. Right now, hold on a second. Right now, okay. So when Brother Mansour is pointing out
He doesn't know Arabic.
basic,
his job.
when Brother Mansour is pointing out basic errors in grammar in the Arabic language, a language which is necessary for you to be able to be a critical scholar within that language,
the fact that he's
and
been
you find no
peer-reviewed
problem.
as a scholar,
Listen to me.
do you not think
Do you
that
understand
he's
how
valid?
peer review works?
Yes.
How does it work?
In universities, when you write a
Yes.
thesis, you have it reviewed by your
Okay.
peers,
Yes, right.
who are also
Do you know how that works?
Yes.
I'll explain to you how that works because I don't think you do.
Okay, well, go on then.
If I go to a Christian university,
Sure.
right?
I don't think he is.
If I go to a Christian university or a supervisor themselves are evangelical Christians, they're more likely to review things that I'm saying in, let's say, a more sympathetic way than somebody else might do, for example. Now, I quoted you a scholar, one of the most foremost experts in Quranic text, Professor Angela Newith. Angela Newith, right? She says, these are her words, that the arguments of preservation are finished, they're done.
I like that, I agree.
Yes, but the reasons she gives are that the number of manuscripts that we are now uncovering, far from contradicting preservation, are only reinforcing and confirming it.
You see,
Now my argument to you is this. If you can now point to me where her methodology, as Brother Mansour has very succinctly demonstrated, that her methodology is completely wrong, that within scholarship she's been highly criticised, then you have a point.
I don't agree his methodology is wrong, because he's not trying to do what you're talking about, and I agree that's a good thing to do.
So what's he trying to achieve?
All he's trying to do is to take the standardised Hafs
Yes,
text
yes.
and compare it with the manuscript. That's
Okay.
all he's doing.
How would you do that?
You take the manuscript,
Yes.
whichever that top copy,
Yes,
whatever that might
yes,
be,
yes.
and you say, at this point here, it had something inserted over the top of it.
Right.
That's what you do.
Now, as a scholar,
Yeah.
how would you rule out a scribal error?
Very good question.
No, I think he's saying, he actually gives in his book, he says, reasons for this could be scribal error.
I didn't ask you that question. I asked you what would the methodology be to demonstrate that this was actually just a scribal error. What would you have to do?
Because he doesn't do that. He mentions it.
What would you have to do?
Can I just ask, what is your issue with his work?
No. Can you answer my question?
I wanted to ask him
No. I asked you.
I've listened to you for a long time.
I've asked you a question though. You can answer my question first. What is the methodology?
Can I just ask him a question?
What is the methodology that you would have to execute in order to find out whether this was just a scribal error? What would you have to do?
To find out if something is a scribal error, you would have to look at the text itself and see whether or not there is any likely alternatives to the word that has been substituted.
No.
You wouldn't do that?
No.
Okay,
If a scribe makes an error and there are multiple copies of something before, during and after, what would you do to find out whether actually this
so
was
you're talking about what you were saying earlier, about how you would look at other manuscripts and see which is the dominant text.
That's logical, right?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Is that rational?
But
is that fair?
Yes, it is.
Does he do that?
No. He hasn't chosen to do that yet.
So there you go.
He's only doing one thing, which is saying, look, guys,
you made your argument. You've completed the absolutely.
There are manuscripts which do not conform to the Hafs Quran. That's all he's saying.
You just said to me, it would be fair, correct methodology, it would be the right thing to do, and then you've admitted to me, and he hasn't done that.
Yes.
So khalas, the matter is finished then.
So you're bringing him
you're
to
complaining
the
he hasn't done
discussion.
something he never tried to do.
To bring him discussion to somehow doubt the preservation of the Quran is fruitless.
Exactly.
It's something that doesn't help the discussion. So he is not a witness for Quran not being preserved. In fact, he's a witness against it.
Exactly.
In fact, he's a proof that the Quran has been preserved.
Exactly.
He should have done this robust methodology and comparison. He doesn't do that for a simple reason. He knows it's been done. Because the sources that he goes to, he knows already it's available online. And there are other manuscripts that you can compare. Like I've demonstrated, we have demonstrated, me and Brother Farid.
What's the video? It's on Farid, you and Ijaz.
Yeah, but we have an academia paper on this, and this in significant correction manuscripts. We will put that on the description of the videos.
Under Dawah-wise.
And Dawah-wise and elsewhere, where you can read that paper and you can see how this methodology is only coming from an evangelical standpoint. He's an evangelist. He's not bringing his scholarship onto the scene, but he's bringing his ideological stance and saying there seems to be some kind of ideological move of corrupting the Quranic text when he doesn't do what it's supposed to be done.
But he doesn't make any opinions on what he's
He
looking
does.
at.
You haven't read his book. I have.
You know the worrying thing here.
Have it with me.
You know what?
I've read it.
Okay, bring his book out.
The worrying thing here for me is that you have a supposed academic who is deliberately misguiding people about the truthfulness or the correctness of something. This is actually tantamount to, I would say, really just supplying lies and deception to convince the people of what he believes.
He doesn't make conclusions from it. Actually, all he says is like, okay.
What does he conclude?
He doesn't. All he says is.
Can we read?
Sure. Well, obviously it's a book, and you got to be careful about where. There's probably conclusions. The Quran has been and continues to be consequential.
You remember where he mentions any claims of conclusion in his conclusion? Okay.
I'm just reading his conclusion here. In many parts of the world, it is a source of regional, cultural, and spiritual pride, inexplicitly intertwined with every part of life. It is also an object of history, related to one of the most dramatic and enduring movements of political conquest and colonization of the history in the world. It claims internally to be revelation from God and is claimed by Muhammad himself. Furthermore, I can keep reading it, but it's very neutral. Like, all he does is he takes manuscript points.
Can I show you something?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You carry on speaking, and I'm going to show you whether you think it's conclusions.
Can I tell you why it's not neutral? Can I tell you why it's not neutral?
Okay. Have you read this?
Can I tell you why it's not neutral?
Okay.
I'll tell you why it's not neutral. Because you're using Brubaker's arguments to demonstrate that there are multiple readings or corruption of the Quran. Okay?
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
To be able to demonstrate that fairly, you have to have a robust methodology of how you arrived at that conclusion. You've admitted that he hasn't done that.
No, I've said he's pointed out.
Hold on a second.
On the original. See, I keep repeating myself.
You've admitted that he hasn't done that. That, to the reader, is suggestive that there is corruption and manipulation of the Quran.
No, he isn't saying.
Even if he doesn't necessarily say it,
He isn't saying.
that is what he's suggesting.
He's
implying it. Yeah.
He's implying that.
Guys, have you read the
Absolutely.
book? Have you actually read the book? I know
I have
you have.
responded to the book.
Okay, so where is his conclusion? Does he say? Let's read.
You have read this book, right?
Yes.
And his conclusion?
Yes.
Okay.
I found it really like.
Tell me what it
non-biased.
means by this.
Like all he's saying is. Yeah.
What does this existence of these corrections mean?
Okay. Yeah.
These corrections.
Yeah.
Okay. It is an open-ended question and many possible answers.
Ah, that sounds really
Here
nice
are
and biased.
here are a few of my thoughts.
Here are a few of his thoughts. Okay, let's listen.
So is he giving some of his thoughts?
Yes, give us a
Right.
okay, let's listen.
So he's saying first, although it seems to have been reasonably demonstrated by now that, with the exception of the lower layer of the Sana palimpsest, most surviving Quranic manuscripts bear the signs of having been produced following a campaign of standardization,
Okay.
holistically consistent with that reported to have been directed by the third Khalif. It is also clear that there existed some differences
Okay, sure.
of perception about the correct words of the Quranic text at the times most of these manuscripts were produced, which were later revisited when these perceptions changed or standardization became more thorough. It is not impossible that some of these varying perceptions would have been tied to certain geographical region or locale. This perceived flexibility exceeds the bounds of what is
biased
reported in the
words,
Quran
no.
literature.
How is
No. He's saying there is a flexibility
Yes.
of changes within the Quranic text
Yeah.
because he can't find them in the Qiraat literature. Do you know why it's not in the Qiraat literature? Because they are not part of the Qiraat, they are simple mistakes. So why would someone have them in the Qiraat literature when someone is making simple scribal mistakes? But he's saying because of those mistakes, there seems to be some kind of flexibility.
The reason why is because the palimpsest, right?
Wait. He's saying there seems to be a perceived flexibility going on. Not only that, it looks.
Yeah.
These differences of perception were not confined to the earliest decades after Prophet Muhammad's death, but there was some flexibility extending for several centuries after.
So that sounds like
So
corruption
now he's
to me.
making a claim. There seems
but
to be.
he didn't say
listen,
the Quran is corrupt.
Listen,
He was just saying, hey, from the text you read this.
He's saying
If it quacks like a
the
duck,
Quran has to.
quacks like a duck, it's a
you,
duck.
you telling me that's not
Yeah?
that's not
Listen.
a fair interpretation?
Listen to me.
Are you-
He is saying there seems to be flexibility during the time of the Prophet as well as later. Based on what?
Yeah.
One or two manuscripts
Yeah.
within that region which has a correction.
I think it's 7. I think he goes through this.
No.
But, well, it's not just 1 or 2, is it?
A particular example he brings
Yeah, yeah.
and says because that manuscript has a particular correction, it seems to be the text was so fluid, so flexible, it persisted
Yeah,
until.
but the reason why-
wait.
Come on, let's describe why that was.
A scholar
Okay. Yep.
of a scholarly academic caliber
Yep.
would say, actually, is this what I've observed? Have I observed other manuscripts which also shows the same kind of pattern of flexibility? Because if we say something is flexible, we would expect what? Many other manuscripts to talk about the same word in this way, the corrected form, and to continue, not to be one manuscript and it's
I don't
dead
think
and
that's what
buried.
he means by flexible. What he would mean, what my interpretation of that was, is that he means that because it's a palimpsest, it's been written over.
It's not a palimpsest.
No, some of them are. Like
No,
for example,
no. Which of these manuscripts which think these are palimpsests? Most of them are not palimpsests.
The one where he talks about.
The 800 or so examples in his PhD thesis that he talked about, they're not palimpsests.
Okay, I'm talking about this book though.
Not even this book.
There is
even
one,
this book.
the one where he talks about, I think it was like 8 occasions where the word he is replaced by the word Allah. It's written out and replaced by Allah afterwards. And I think that's what he means by flexibility.
So those of you who haven't got a clue what we're talking about, read our response on this book, available on our
You're a
webpage,
Christian, you're a Christian, right?
and then you'll see how.
Okay.
And then you'll see how this whole work is such an insignificant work in any textual study.
You're a Christian, right?
Any textual studies.
Yeah, okay.
Not only this, by the way, I have to give credit. Dr. Tayyar Al-Tikulaj, also, he's one of the world's foremost Quranic scholar, and you haven't even heard his name.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'm not going to claim to have read everything.
If any scholar who says I'm a scholar in the Quran and who has not heard and read about the works of Dr. Tayyar Al-Tikulaj,
This
in
guy
fact,
probably does.
in fact, he himself uses Dr. Tayyar
I
Al-Tikulaj's
imagine
works.
probably does, yeah.
Right. So he's written a book as well, responding to this.
Cool.
And has Dr. Daniel Brubaker responded to him yet? No.
Yeah,
he says, I'm going to respond maybe in a book writing or
Yeah,
something like that.
but what would he disagree with? Because his conclusion is it's very it's very bland.
Can I
Like
ask
he
you?
said-
Can
I'll show you some more claims he's made in the beginning.
Sure.
Of course, you haven't read. In fact, in our book, in our response, there's no point even giving you spoon feeding you. It's all there in our book, showing you where he makes those ideological claims about these books, about the Quranic preservation and so on.
All he says is that in some manuscripts it shows that there was a flexibility in the idea of
Can I just ask you a
whether
question?
you could say he
you
or
said,
Allah, for
you said
example.
you're
Yeah.
Christian, right?
Yes.
Yeah. If I was to go to the book of Matthew,
Yeah.
yes, and I read a verse, and I found an error in there, yes, and I made a book, and I said, oh look, I found these errors in the Bible. There's flexibility. The text was adopting, it was changing, da 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 da, right? And then you turned around and said to me, but we have very early manuscripts
yeah.
actually
Which is what we do.
that have that word in there.
Yeah.
Yes? Multiple. Hold on a
So-
sec. No. Hold on a second. I'm getting there. Relax. You say I have multiple manuscripts that actually have that word in there. I have multiple manuscripts from that time that have that word in there. I have multiple manuscripts that come after that time that have that word in there. I have an oral tradition where this is being recited and it's still being recited today. Would it be fair for me then to say that that was an error?
So this is what Christians would do with our scriptures. So New Testament scholarship for the last 200 years, we look at the earliest manuscripts in Greek for the New Testament, and then we look at to specifically understand what parts of it we can know have been inserted. 1 John 5:7 might be an example. The longer ending of Mark might be another one, and then we can make our conclusions based off this. And this is how we have validity.
Did
in
I
our
ask you that
scripture.
question?
Yeah, but you're talking about like if you look at this.
Did I ask you that question? What was the question I asked you?
You said if you looked at the oral tradition and you looked at the earliest manuscripts and you saw the variants of them,
I didn't say
can
that.
you?
No, I didn't say that. You're not even listening to what I'm saying.
Okay, what did you say?
I said if I found an error in a verse in Matthew,
Okay, that's exactly what I was referring to.
hold on a second,
Right.
and then I felt there were multiple manuscripts that actually had the correct word in.
That's exactly what I
And
was
during that
referring
time,
to. Yeah.
and after, and you had an oral tradition that you could demonstrate where that word is still being recited today.
Okay.
Would it be fair
To be fair,
for me to say that, look, that word that I found that was wrong actually should demonstrate that there was a flexibility, there was error?
Okay.
Would it be fair for me to say
as I
that?
was getting to,
Yes or
come
no?
on, come on.
Is
If
it
I
fair?
try to speak, you
Would it be
shut me
fair?
down.
Would it be fair?
What I'm saying is this: our understanding of scriptures is different from the Islamic.
Would it be fair for me to say that?
In Islamic scripture,
Would
you
it
say
be
that
fair
the-
for me to
my
say
friend,
that?
Can I answer the way I
You're
want
not
to answer?
answering it.
I'm trying to.
No,
you
but
won't let me.
no, because you're frustrating me. Because I'm asking you a question and you're not bothering to answer it. Would it
Let
be
me
fair?
answer.
Would it be fair for me to say that there clearly shows errors and manipulation and fabrication in the text? Would it be fair?
What it would be fair to say is that in the early Islamic manuscripts, there are variants that do not conform with the standardized Hafs Quran today.
Would it be fair
That is
for
all
me?
I'm saying.
Would it be
That's
fair?
all I have ever said.
Would it be fair for me to say that this is an error in the Bible? Would it be fair?
No, and I'm not saying.
No.
I'm not saying.
It wouldn't be fair. So you said no, it wouldn't be fair, right?
Yes, in the sense of you can use that methodology to know what parts of the Bible are valid and not valid.
So
yes,
it would be
say.
fair for me to say that the Bible's been corrupted because I found this one
Loaded
text.
word, but yeah.
I found this one text that disagrees. It would be fair for me to say the Bible is corrupt, yes?
Not in the sense of a full corruption. We believe that there's a distinction between the text and the message.
Would it be fair for me to say that that's corrupt, even though there are
What do you
manuscripts?
mean by corrupt?
Oh, do I have to explain words
Well,
to
no,
you
because there's
now?
an emotional loaded term of that word, and there's a variant somewhere. Worse.
Okay,
So what do you
let me
mean?
explain it to you again.
Okay.
I find an error, a different word.
Okay, so you're talking about a variant.
You as a Christian say to me, but I have multiple manuscripts
Yes.
before,
So I can derive what was likely the correct
multiple
interpretation.
during that time,
Yep.
multiple after, and I have an oral tradition that confirms the correct word. Would it be fair under those circumstances for me to still claim that it's a corruption? You see how he's struggling?
Yeah, in terms of a variant.
You see how he's struggling?
No, it's
Because
showing you what
because
language
it would
you're
be inherently unfair.
No, you have a different standard.
would
of
be
the Islamic
inherently
text that Christians
unjust.
have of their Bible.
It would be unjust and unfair for
I
me to
don't
claim
say
that.
that
You
the
know
Bible
why
was
you're not
divine and
answering
came
the
from heaven.
question?
I don't say that.
You're not answering the question
just
because
did.
you're doing exactly the same thing to the Quran.
Just to now give some material evidence to the book. Look, this is example one. example 1, so-called corrections, like, look, in response, we're going to manuscripts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, that's example 2, 12 or 30 manuscripts, which doesn't have these so-called corrections, exactly the same as a manuscript. Example number 2, in response from other manuscripts, from manuscript 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 14 sufficient. Example number 3. 3 has many examples. 3, 1. That's his so-called corrections. And in our response, what do we find about other manuscripts from around that time? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8.
Is that what you get?
Example number 3 too. For every example, these are about 300 pages of work, right? 300 pages of manuscripts work, showing you exactly how the so-called corrections are only within that manuscript, but we have other manuscripts from that
you can derive the actual meaning from.
Yeah. Right. So that means then all your theses about whatever you want to bring, flexibility, corruption, goes under the bus.
Because scribes thought they could change one of the manuscripts, right?
What this demonstrates, the Quranic tradition, the Quranic textual tradition, is so rigid.
Right, because you have other manuscripts, right?
Wait, let me finish my point. Okay. Quranic textual tradition is so rigid, not flexible, that whatever we read today, we can go back centuries, even those centuries around these manuscripts that he is using to show it's exactly the same that is in our current Mus'haf. Right. Demonstrating Quranic rigid preservation. When I say rigid, it's exactly how it is. Not flexible, oh, they had a different Quran. Right. Same. So now, do you now understand? This book is insignificant.
But it didn't talk about that.
No, what I'm saying is, it doesn't matter if you have 20 examples or a million examples.
He's just saying.
Listen, to my point. It doesn't matter if you bring Daniel Brubaker or whoever. As long as the material evidence is on our side, which is, then the claim of Quranic preservation is something that you have to accept unwillingly or willingly.
What I would say is that to me is basically the standard New Testament critical approach for how Christians do with their Bible.
That's absolutely nonsense.
Is our Quran preserved in the textual tradition?
That's how I explained to him.
Well, not in the Cairo, because these differ from the Cairo version. It's mostly the same. Like it's
you
most
see,
standards,
all these buzzwords, Cairo edition.
That's the main Quran that's used today, when 95% of the world.
Hang on. Yeah. I have a Quran which is of the Hafs reading before 1924.
Before 1924, okay. Oh,
so,
really?
So was the Quran standardized in 1924? The Hafs Quran?
No, they were different.
I've got to read Maghrib actually.
No. In 1924, what happened?
They standardized the Quran and they
we've got to pray.
threw away the
We're going to finish now.
No, they didn't throw away them. Again, you are regurgitating or like vomiting out this. Let me finish.
This is just what I think.
Let me finish. I'm going to be, if it's a spade, I will say it's a spade. If it's a duck, I will say it's a duck. So I am saying you are regurgitating or vomiting out.
Or saying,
Not saying. This polemical nonsense and rubbish.
Is what I'm saying a lie?
Can I finish my point though?
No, because you're just insulting me.
I'm not insulting.
You just said I'm regurgitating.
I am saying, look, this information about the Quran in 1924, when they were standardizing it, the rest of them threw in the Nile. Do you know where they got this from?
Okay, so this isn't true.
Do you know where they got this from?
I don't know.
Right, let me tell you then. Let me tell you then.
Okay, just don't say like I'm regurgitating these lies.
Did you not say they got rid of all the others? Did you not just say?
I heard they put the non-standardized versions.
What did they do?
Is that true?
Wait, 1924? In 1924?
I've heard about it, but is it
Good.
true? I
So
don't know.
let me tell you now. So you've heard about it. Did you examine it? Did you critically examine the truthfulness of the story? I did.
Okay, so what's the answer?
I went to the sources.
What's the answer?
One moment. Did you do that?
No, I haven't.
Good.
So
you haven't.
I'm still learning.
Good. So
Okay,
in your
so
learning, let me give you something, an advice, a friendly advice. When you're going to learn about someone else's scripture, don't take it from Tom, Dick and Harry here preaching and saying Quran is not preserved, the 36th Quran, whatever, because they will mislead you to hell. Yeah? Go to the scholarship.
I'll listen to everyone. I'll listen to you. I'll listen to any
no,
Muslim.
go
who
to
wants
scholarship,
Yeah.
scholars, experts in the field, and see what they have to say.
Well,
So I went to Professor Said Gabriel Reynolds, because they're quoting him, because it's coming from his book. He says, look, where did you get this from? He said, from this German scholar. But where did he say? What did he say? So basically, someone just trying to get quote from a quote from a quote. Eventually, it turns out that this is just a story from someone who's saying without any substance. Because in 1924, they weren't standardizing the Quran.
That's right.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay, so
The
my
Hafs
understanding
Quran,
is-
the Hafs reading of the text was already in print
Of course.
in Iran,
course.
in
India,
elsewhere,
India.
in India, and so I have a PDF copy of a manuscript.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
obviously.
from about ages, 14th, 15th century.
Can I speak?
We
I get what you're
No,
saying.
no.
But say,
You
you're not letting me
don't.
speak.
You will speak, but I want to
Okay,
make this
okay,
point though.
but let's be quick though. Yeah.
There is this false being pushed by some idiotic thinking people from Speaker's Corner. Why I'm saying idiotic?
Why do you have to insult people? Don't insult people.
I'll tell you why it's idiotic. You know what idiotic means?
Yeah, it's stupid.
Yeah, stupid. When you find the evidence is not this, and they're pushing forward a narrative. You know what? The Bible says God is 5 in 20, and they keep pushing forward. That's an idiotic claim, which has no substance. So anyone who does that, Bible has a God concept is 5 in 20, 5 in 20, and every Christian believes in that. What is 5 in 20? Do you realize what that makes you when you bring that same claim?
You know what the 1924 argument is so ludicrous.
It's not even an argument. I never even thought of it as an argument.
Let me explain that to you.
Okay.
My father was born in 1931. Okay? My father's brother, mashallah, is Hafaz, memorizer of the Quran. I have many in my family, alhamdulillah, right? So my grandfather would have presumably memorized and read a different Quran. My grandfather read, mashallah, may Allah give him Jannah, paradise, in front of my own eyes. He would finish 8 or 10 chapters of the 30 segments of the Quran, not the chapters, sorry. Juz. He would read 10 juz almost every day. From morning till night, my grandfather would be reading the Quran. What that tells you is that my grandfather in his own lifetime would have been reading a different Quran, and then he would have been reading a different one when the Egyptian Cairo edition in 1924 came about. And guess what? Not only him, but millions and millions, tens, hundreds of millions of Muslims were also doing that. And guess what? There's no evidence whatsoever that we find that the Muslims complained that this 1924 edition is not the same one that I memorized.
Well, there was obviously a reason as to why.
Not a
standardized it,
single
right?
person. Not a
So
single
there would
person.
have
Now,
there would have been disagreements about which is the correct version.
brother,
used.
brother,
Is
yes,
that-
Of course not.
Bruv,
So you
of
haven't
course
got
not.
a clue what they're doing in
Subhanallah.
1924.
Okay, tell me the answer then.
Now, why am I going to spoon feed you with information when you haven't got a clue, and yet you come with a rhetoric? In 1924, the Quran was
That's what I've heard.
standardized.
Tell me if it's
From
wrong.
who?
I don't know. Went on the internet, whatever. Actually, I think this book probably refers to it.
Yeah, exactly. So pseudo scholar then. What happened in
this is a
1924? Hang on. What happened in 1924 according to him?
Is a scholar.
Pseudo scholar, clearly, according
What
to
do you mean
the subject.
pseudo scholar? He works at
Someone
an
who-
established university. He's referenced by other scholars.
So
and-
if I now do a PhD
yes,
in
this
Quranic
study.
manuscripts,
Yes.
and I start teaching and writing books, I become the expert in Quranic
You become
scholarship.
an expert. Yes.
no, but you've already
Really?
agreed that his methodology was
So
wrong.
if you study it and you learn,
No, but you already agreed that his methodology was wrong.
No, the methodology you mentioned is a correct one. It's a good one. I'm saying he hasn't done that.
Did he adopt that?
He hasn't done it yet.
So he used the wrong methodology.
No, it's not that he's like using the wrong one. He's only he actually
Did
says in the
he
book, I'm
use the
still going
right?
through
Did he
this.
use the right methodology to find
No,
out?
he's not saying
Did
that
he-
you can't derive
did-
what the correct meaning is.
Did
is-
he use the right methodology?
In his PhD thesis. Let's go back to his actual
in
PhD
his
thesis.
PhD thesis, did he
Just
use the
talking about
right
his book.
did he use the right methodology to uncover whether there were variations or fluid
What he means
fluid
is-
texts?
There were manuscripts which scribes wrote one thing and then they later wrote a different
Did
thing.
he use the correct
That's what he means
methodology?
by-
Later, one moment, brother. Later,
I don't know how later it was. I don't know if he.
have you read these books? Have you read every single example of his books?
Yeah.
Okay. Does it talk about there are examples where there are correction by the same scribe?
Yes, I think so.
You think so? Yes, definitely so. So what do you have to say about that?
Well,
Is the scribe somehow now writing a different Quran because he had one Quran and he's writing a different Quran?
Well, yeah, obviously.
What changed his mind?
Well, probably, we don't know. That's a question that's up for debate, right? He doesn't. All he says is, this is where
It's
the
a
term
question of
flexibility
debate?
comes in. Yeah, because we don't
So
know.
if a scribe is copying a particular manuscript
Yeah,
before him, right?
Yeah.
Which predates him. Manuscript is copying.
yeah,
And he changes, after he's writing something, he changes back again.
yeah.
It tells you that he had a Quran manuscript, which was a different one, and he writes another one. What is what we're trying to understand here?
Well, I think, obviously this is a question for intellectual discussion, but he suggests that there's flexibility on whether or not you can have he or you can have the word Allah. So at some point, the scribe probably...
You're not even understanding my point.
My friend, can I just finish?
Let me restate what I'm saying. The same scribe, when he writes something, he writes and he realizes he's missed a whole phrase, and then he writes it again.
That's not what I'm referring to.
Or he repeats the same word again on the next line, and then he corrects it.
In some occasions, but the one I'm talking about...
Excuse me.
Mate, you won't let me finish, and then if I say something, you're like, whoa, wait. Give me respect. Let me speak. Let me finish what I'm saying.
Which example are you talking about? Let's talk about this example.
Okay, so I'm talking about...
Which example? Bring in your book.
I'm going to have to try and find it. But sorry, it's dark.
Because you seem to be pretty much, immersed in this example, which you think is so convincing.
Well, it's just because it's quite a one I remembered.
I think the bottom line is that you've already accepted.
It's basically, there's a manuscript in which I think it was about 8 different times where they replaced the word he with the word, as in it was originally he in Arabic, and then they overwrote it, probably the same scribe, with the word Allah. It doesn't change the meaning. What I'm saying though.
Wrong.
What do you mean wrong? He literally just points out in his book.
Where? I've read his book. I've responded to his book. Where did he say there are 8 examples of he being changed to Allah?
In one of them, in only one of the it's just putting out one of the manuscripts.
No, you said
there, the word.
There are 8 examples.
I think there is 8. It might be less or more. I don't know. But
so your thinking is wrong.
No,
so
I remember this. I'm telling you. Okay. Well, people can go.
Let me show you.
Okay, if you can find it, I'd appreciate it.
I'll show you. So this is how you're going about evangelizing about, how Christianity is true because the Quran gets it all wrong and it's not preserved when you haven't even a clue what even your scholars have to say about it.
Mate, if you're going to be rude.
I'm not being rude, I'm being very blunt.
No, you're being rude. If you're going to
I'm not being rude. I'm not being rude. I'm saying what is straight.
I literally just read this book, had some questions, asked some people, and then you come in and you start making accusations.
No. This is an example, he says. Look here.
I can't remember where it is. But...
Are you talking about where he inserts it?
No, it's not an insertion. It's a replacement. I think.
Replacement.
I think they replaced the word he with the word Allah in a few places.
But I'm telling you, he doesn't show anywhere
in
where
one manuscript.
In eight. You said about 8 examples.
Yes, so in one manuscript.
In one manuscript,
yes,
there can be many
words where he said he.
No, in one manuscript there can be several corrections because we know certain manuscripts. Look, certain manuscripts are written by scribes who were not very proficient in writing. This is well known in Quranic scholarship. People write manuscripts. People write manuscripts today. They handwrite manuscripts. They handwrite. So you can't equate this and saying this was from a professor of the Quran who has memorized and he's changing his mind every now and then. Oh, it's not he, it's Allah. No, it's Allah.
Let me finish. You're reading into it.
Allah, he, Allah, he. Okay. Why would someone think? Why would someone, you think, such a proficient scribe keep deleting he and putting Allah in there? He, Allah in there, he, Allah in there.
Here's an idea.
What's
Maybe he looked at the other manuscripts, like you said, and he went, the other manuscripts seem to be implying...
What other manuscripts? What other manuscripts has that?
What other manuscripts?
None.
What?
I'm telling you.
You're telling me you didn't copy this from somewhere?
What I'm saying is, he doesn't provide any contemporary manuscripts in which you can say, there you go. Oh, look, there's another manuscript, another manuscript, another manuscript, and this is where you find the same word, a variant, has been somehow suppressed because it was supposed to be a tradition. But what he brings is this particular example in which he can't bring substantiative evidence from other before contemporary or later manuscripts to make that point. Because you would expect, look, a reading tradition, remember, if the Quran was read by the Prophet ﷺ, say it differently, right? And that was taught by various people. So this chain of transmission will continue. You would expect them to write the same Quran within that particular reading. So when someone's now finding a Quran, why do we not find these readings continuing from X, Y, Z, all these centuries? Why do we find all the manuscripts go back to one specific exemplar, the prototype, what they're saying? Quran seems to be coming from the same one. Are you familiar with the works of Marijn van Putten?
No.
Are you familiar with the works of various other scholars in this field?
No.
So I suggest you read them.
Okay,
Get familiar with scholarship. What the scholars have to say on the Quran issue.
If you give me others, I'll go read them.
But he's an evangelical. He's an evangelical Christian.
He's a Christian, yeah, but I don't
Not
think
evangelical Christian.
So Yasser Qadhi is a Muslim. No one goes, oh, Yasser Qadhi, he can't do a proper
Is
exegesis of the text.
Yasser Qadhi a Quranic scholar on the textual
Yes.
manuscripts?
As far as my
No,
understanding
but
is,
hold on a
yes.
second. Are you
So
going
you're telling me that?
are you going to trust Yasser Qadhi's criticism of the Bible?
Well, it's not his field. Like this guy's
not
field
his
isn't the
field.
Bible.
But
What?
would
Is it?
would you trust
Am I wrong?
would you trust Yasser Qadhi's criticism of the Bible?
Well, like maybe not from a scholarly point of view,
No.
but he may make good
So
points.
why do you accept Brubaker, who is also a evangelical Christian?
You can't dismiss someone.
No,
by
hold on.
saying-
I haven't made my point yet. An evangelical Christian who you agree did not use a robust methodology.
No, I never said
Hold on a
that.
second.
You're putting words
no,
into my
no,
mouth.
no.
You know full well
no,
I never said
no.
that.
I asked you, would the correct methodology be to compare it to manuscripts that existed before, during, and after? And would it be the correct methodology to look at the oral tradition to see whether it confirms that or not?
Okay.
Before you write a book, hold on a second, claiming that there is somehow a flexible text, which basically implies that it wasn't confirmed.
You haven't even read it,
It was not.
Listen, what he means by that,
Did
and
he
I'll
not
say
just
it
say in
again.
his conclusion,
Yeah,
a flexible text?
flexible. What he means by that is there is an example in an early manuscript of a scribe who thought
What does flexible mean?
it means flexible in the understanding of what is a correct term to write.
Yeah.
Is it the word he
What does that
or
mean?
is it the
What is
word
that-
Allah?
what is the implications of using the word flexible?
That you could either use the word he or you could use the word Allah.
What does it mean to say that the text was flexible?
There are variants in the word he or the word
there's
Allah.
not-
The Supreme Maghrib.
He doesn't say
so-
that
so-
means
hold-
the
hold on.
Quran is like
So therefore, there's not one.
destroyed. It doesn't say,
No. Therefore,
Right, there you are then.
therefore, it implies that there's
doesn't
not
imply
there's not
anything.
one uniform reading.
Well, in the early
I'm gonna go on
manuscript
Prima Maghrib,
tradition,
Yes. Shall I please-
I'm going to cover as well. So what it suggests is that there's not one unified reading or understanding of the Quran.
from that scribe's point of view in that manuscript.
That's what it suggests.
yeah.
Yes.
That's fine because you pointed out there is another.
Did he use the correct methodology to come to that conclusion?
Let me finish the sentence. You have pointed out accurately that you can use other manuscripts to deter what the likely reading is meant to be. No problem with that. What I am saying to you though is that in your early manuscript tradition, there are manuscripts that do not conform with the standardized Hafs Quran today.
So did
in
he?
the same way that that's true for the Bible, in the same way that's true for the Torah.
You keep repeating the same thing, hoping.
But that's all I'm saying. But you then take that.
Yeah, but you simply are repeating the
This is,
same thing, hoping.
Corrections in the early Quran manuscripts.
Oh,
by
sorry, you guys
Daniel.
having that? Okay, go on.
He just asked me a
No,
question.
go, please, go ahead. Yeah, go on. No, go on. Explain to him the book that you're talking about.
He just asked me a question.
He's like your master is telling you what.
I don't know. You can't have a
No, it's
conversation
not about being
with him.
master. If I'm having a conversation with him, and then other people ask him a question about the book, he can say, "Sorry, I'm just having a conversation."
I just passed
After
the
I
book
finish,
and
you know,
I just finished.
okay.
No, I'm back to
So now, he said they're flexible readings.
In that
Did
particular
he
manuscript.
use the correct methodology to enable him to reach that conclusion?
So, give me a second.
Let me see. So, is that secret?
It's not a secret. I'll show you. I'm just going to say. Yeah.
Continue your conversation.
Right, so,
He used the correct methodology to come to that conclusion.
What conclusion?
That's what I'm trying to say to you. Pay attention,
No,
otherwise you're going to lose.
I've already said the
you're gonna
conclusion. The conclusion is actually really mild.
The conclusion is that the text is flexible.
That particular manuscript is flexible
No,
in terms of how the original
no.
scribe
He
understood it.
didn't say just that particular text, did he? He said
Well,
the
yes.
text.
Yes, he gives examples of other
The
manuscripts.
text is flexible.
Yes, in terms of how some
Did he
scribes
use the
understood,
correct methodology to arrive at that conclusion?
which is that you find the manuscripts and you find that they've been changed. Yes.
He used the correct methodology.
You're talking about a methodology that will tell you what the likely intended
Did
standardized
he use the
meaning
correct
is.
methodology to arrive at that
You're
conclusion?
asking me for a different question.
Did he arrive?
No, listen.
Did he
your question
use-
is wrong.
Did
Simple as.
he use the correct methodology to arrive at that conclusion?
Yes, by looking at a
Yes,
manuscript
okay.
and finding that manuscript
Did he compare
had
it to
different
other
words in it.
manuscripts?
Yes.
Okay,
He said
okay.
yes.
If you
He
want to
said
find
yes.
out what the likely version is,
Yeah.
you that.
No,
That's
okay,
correct
so-
for
so-
that
so you
question.
said- so you said
But
yes?
for a different
Yes,
question,
he said yes.
which is about the
okay,
flexibility
no problem, I can handle yes.
of the
So you
single
said yes.
manuscript.
You said yes. Yes.
Yes.
You would just look
Yes.
at that manuscript and then you would look at it
You said
from
yes.
a paleography point of view
You
to
said yes.
understand.
Man
I don't know.
said
I don't
yes.
know. You said yes. Just stop. You
Stop,
said
you
yes.
said yes, bro.
Just stop.
But he keeps having
No,
this
no,
obsession
just
with this
stop.
other
You
methodology.
said yes. You said earlier that the correct methodology would have been to compare it to.
For different questions,
Hold
yeah.
on a second.
For different questions, yeah.
You said it would have been better to have compared the
yeah,
manuscripts that
everything's
existed
supposed to be
before, during, and after. Did he do that?
No, because that's not what he's intending to show.
So he didn't do that.
Why did he not do that?
Right. No.
'Cause it wasn't what
Why
he
is it
intended to
irrelevant?
show.
No.
See,
The why is irrelevant. What is relevant is that he didn't do that.
he's only showing, the entire point of this book is to say there are manuscripts that do not correlate to the standardized
You
Hafs
said
Quran.
he used
That
the correct.
is it.
You said he used the correct methodology to ascertain
To ascertain that there are not
that there are
manuscripts
flexible
that do-
readings.
in that manuscript, just
Okay.
that manuscript.
Okay, there are
because there is
fine.
a scribe that has
So you said
overwritten
yes.
it.
You said yes.
That's it. Yes.
Yes. So he shouldn't have compared it to the manuscripts that existed before, during,
That's
and
not
after.
what he's trying to answer.
No, did he
he's
compare
not
them?
answering that question.
Did he compare them?
No, because he's
No.
not answering that
Should he have done
question.
so?
Not for this question.
No, he shouldn't have done so.
Not for this question.
So this question of the fact that this word was changed or
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, in a manuscript,
he
yeah.
should not compare that to the existing manuscripts that existed before,
He's
during,
not
and
trying
after.
to figure out what the intended words were. He was trying to understand why there are manuscripts that do not clarify to the Hafs Quran today.
Do you realise how ludicrous that argument is?
Mate, it's
Shall
not
I
even an
ex-
argument.
shall I
It's literally just
shall-
me explaining what
shall
the
I-
intent of his
shall I-
work
shall I
was,
explain?
and you disagreeing with
Shall
it.
I explain that to you? Because I think you really
You
misunderstand.
don't even understand what he tried to do. You haven't even read the book, dude.
Listen, I've read enough of it to know what he's going at. I've watched enough of his videos.
His conclusion.
I've watched enough of his videos to know exactly where he's coming from and where he's going.
It's the most
I know.
milquetoast conclusion
No.
that you could ever
Hold on
get.
a second.
I'm losing
His
patience. with you.
fundamental
Losing
his
patience.
fundamental argument is the Quran was not one preserved text. That correct?
Not in the way that Islamic has been understood. It's more like in the way that the Torah and the Injil has been understood.
So it was not one preserved text.
We know that. Well, that's obvious because there were manuscripts that were accepted
Whether
as
it's
being...
obvious or not is irrelevant. That's his argument.
That's okay, yeah.
Yeah, so I do understand his argument, then, don't I?
Yeah, but you're,
Yeah.
you're trying to compare it to a different
No,
argument.
no.
And that different
no,
argument
no,
is what was the
no,
likely
no,
correct
no,
version.
No.
Based off
no,
the number
no.
of manuscripts and
So
other things.
number one,
and that's not what he's
I
talking
understand
about.
his argument, don't I?
Yeah, from what you said before.
Right,
yeah.
and he uses evidence to support that argument, doesn't he?
Yeah, which was showing the manuscripts that do not agree with the Hafs
Right.
Quran today. Yeah.
Right. And did he use manuscripts that existed before, during, and after to make
That's
sure?
not relevant to what he just said.
Hold on a
though.
sec.
That's not relevant,
Okay,
is it?
let me just explain something to you.
Okay.
When you have a variant, what are the possibilities of that variant arising?
Is that a question he's trying to address in his book?
I'm asking you.
Doesn't want to answer. Doesn't want to answer. You know that's not what he
If
tried
a
to do in
variant
his book.
exists, what are the possible ways that variant can exist?
Many different ways. He goes into scribal error.
I'm
is one
asking
way.
you.
One way is that there is he interprets a flexibility
Scribal
and the
error.
acceptability.
Scribal
in whether
error.
You can say he or Allah.
How would you ascertain whether it's a scribal error or not?
Based on the context, based on looking at through studies of paleography, the actual thing. You can also go to other ones and understand that. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Did he
but
do
that's
that?
not his intent.
Did he do that?
He's not aggressive. You're not addressing my
No,
point.
I'm asking you whether he did
you
that or
want
not.
to make the argument about something different.
No, I'm not making a different
And
argument
I'm
at all.
not going
no,
into that
no,
argument.
No. Look,
I'm only
let
starting
me explain
in the
something to
fact
you.
there is-
I've got to pray now, right? And I'm going to conclude now. If I make an argument against the Bible,
Okay.
you're a Christian, right?
Sure, yeah.
And I say the Bible is corrupt.
Sure.
Yes? And I provide you evidence that
Okay.
demonstrates why it's corrupt.
Yeah.
Not just from my own opinion, but from the majority of your own scholars
Yeah.
who say that it is corrupt
Sure.
because we don't have the originals.
Sure, yeah. Well,
Yes.
we don't have the originals or anything.
You don't have the
but
originals of the Bible,
the
right?
Quran, yeah.
Well, so that's your argument. But your argument, as we've seen, has failed, right? Now,
Well, I just made that
Now
to-
I
no,
have
that's a
to.
new
Now,
argument,
now,
but yeah.
you have to. You can question me. What is your methodology? How have you arrived at this position?
But we're not interested in that. That's not the
No, no,
question.
well, we should be interested
yeah,
in that.
I agree. For a
We
separate
should be.
question.
But then you
for a
should
separate
speak to the
question.
right
We should be.
people. You should speak to the
I
right
agree with
people.
you. Good point. Very
and
good
then
point.
If I'm gonna pick up a
Very good point.
an Indian person and let them tell me about your
Exactly.
Bible, that's sabotage. So
I agree
it's the
with you.
same what you do with
Very
Christians.
good point. You see, look.
When you
yes.
catch a Christian and
Yes.
you twist them and
Yes.
when you speak to a true Israelite,
Yes,
then
yes.
we can speak
yes.
about the problem.
So, brother, you know who he's quoting?
He's hiding his book.
An evangelical Christian. You make a very good point, yeah? You make a very good point, yeah? He's quoting an evangelical Christian who's telling me... He's telling me that my Quran is not preserved.
Exactly.
When I'm now questioning his method, I'm not discarding him because he's Christian.
I would.
I'm not doing that.
Discarded him.
No. I'm not. I'm saying. What I'm saying.
did, my friend.
Okay, I did say that. Yes.
Okay, that's fair.
But what I'm saying to you that does not necessarily mean that his works are discarded. But what I would do, of course, just as any human being would do, if you've got a dog in the race, I'm going to be a little bit more skeptical with what you say, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So if I'm a Muslim and I'm saying, oh, Islam is wonderful, it's great, you can logically, rationally, you can say, well, you would say that you're a Muslim,
No, you're
right?
not Israelite.
Yeah,
You're not
right,
Israelite.
right.
Absolutely.
So now,
Israelite would never
so
discriminate.
now, I have a reason to be perhaps okay. Well, he's an evangelical Christian. We know how the intra-religious discussions are going between Christians and Muslims, right? And textual criticism, it tends to be one of the hot topics, right?
sure.
Okay, so it's not let's say unfair of me to perhaps be a little bit skeptical. So what will I do? I will look at his methodology. What is the methodology he's adopted in order to come to this conclusion of flexible text? Yes? Is that fair, brother? Yeah? Is that fair? Is that fair? Okay. So now when I do that, through your own admission, the methodology is faulty, and you're still quoting him.
No.
Go home, man.
The intent of this, the intent
Go
of
home,
bedtime.
man. You know what I mean? Bedtime, man.
Anyway, I've got to pray. You know what? I can't keep going over this again and again. Through your own methodology, his methodology is wrong, and you're still quoting him verbatim,
Stop
bashing
white Christian about the Bible, because that's
I don't.
unfair,
We're not here to
Peter.
bash. We're not
Yeah,
here to bash, brother.
No, but
we're not here to bash. But if something look, brother, if you're doing something that I feel is going to cause you harm,
Definitely.
I'm going to say, brother,
Guide
don't
him,
do that.
yeah.
It's going to cause you harm.
Muslims,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Guide, yeah.
If you're a good Christian and you think that you're on hack on the truth, and you think I'm going to harm myself, you're going to say, brother Abbas, don't be a Muslim. You got to be a Christian, and these are the reasons. Yes.
But I believe that Muslims should be Muslims and Israelites should, because the book,
I think we should
arrive,
brother. We should arrive at the truth, not arrive at what our forefathers did or what anyone tells us to do.
That's true.
Yeah, evidence,
That's
evidence.
why I would love to have a conversation.
Alhamdulillah, brothers, take your microphone. I've got to go and pray Maghrib. Okay, Alhamdulillah. Whose the microphone is that?
Brothers and sisters, Allahu Akbar. Thanks to your tremendous support, we have, Alhamdulillah, paid the final installment for this huge masjid property, and now we need your support to convert this 2,700 square meters building into the most amazing Islamic center in the country of Norway, inshallah.
But bro, this does not look like a masjid. It looks like a wedding hall.
And that's exactly what this is. Brothers and sisters, we need your support to reconstruct this wedding hall into a masjid and community center, so we can have our prayer hall for us to establish salah 5 times a day, an indoor playground for the kids to nurture love for the house of Allah, a conference hall for lectures and reminders about Islam.
We need classrooms for education, a library to study, a gym for exercise, and a soup kitchen to help the poor and needy.
If you support us, even with a small sadaqah, you will inshallah harvest a reward for all of these facilities and the khair that they generate throughout the years, all the way until the day we meet Allah.
The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever builds a masjid for the sake of Allah, Allah will build for him a similar house in Jannah. So what are you waiting for? Click the button to donate and share the video for extra rewards.